Today I messed up. I messed up big time. I learned that sometimes ignorance really is bliss. It started innocently enough. My mom has been seeing this new guy for a few months. I know I'm supposed to hate him. Movie logic says I should despise the guy trying to replace my dad. But honestly, I actually like him. He treats her well. There's just one unique thing about him. He's deaf. He reads lips incredibly well, so we communicate just fine. But my mom, she went all in. She started learning sign language immediately, and now they can have full, silent conversations across the room. It was sweet. I was actually proud of them. So I decided to do something special. I've been secretly studying ASL. My plan was to surprise him on his birthday in 2 months. I wanted to sign "Happy Birthday and Welcome to the Family" perfectly. I've been practicing enough that I can now follow a standard conversation pretty easily. But here is the fatal flaw in my plan. I never factored in just what my mom and her boyfriend talk about when they think no one is listening, or rather, when they think no one is watching. We were at dinner the other night. The TV was on. Forks were clinking, totally normal atmosphere. Then out of the corner of my eye, I saw my mom's hands moving. She looked at him with a subtle smirk. I automatically translated the signs. She described, in vivid, graphic detail, exactly what she wanted him to do to her later that night. I froze. My fork hovered halfway to my mouth. Then he signed back. And let me tell you, the things he promised to do involved anatomy and flexibility that I did not need to know about. They were going back and forth, right there at the dinner table, trading the filthiest, raunchiest dialogue imaginable. They are worse than horny teenagers. And I should know, I am one. Now I'm stuck. Every time I walk into a room and see their hands moving, I have to look away in panic. I can't tell them I understand without admitting I've been eavesdropping on their sexting sessions. Happy birthday to him, I guess. I'm just going to get him a gift card. And now on to the next story. My dad was a high school physics teacher for over 30 years, and he'd seen every trick in the book. But there was one kid, let's call him Kevin, who nearly drove him insane. Kevin was smart, but he was a total slacker. He never did his homework. He bombed every pop quiz. But when the major exams came around, 100%, every single time. We're talking perfect scores on complex physics problems that stumped the valedictorian. My dad wasn't an idiot. He knew Kevin was cheating. He just couldn't figure out how. He treated it like a personal challenge. He moved Kevin to the very front row, right under his nose. Kevin aced the test. He made Kevin clear his desk completely, nothing but a pencil and a basic calculator. Kevin smiled, sat down, and aced the test. My dad even started making 2 different versions of the exam, Test A and Test B, distributing them like a checkerboard so neighbors had different questions. Kevin still got 100%. It bugged my dad for months, kept him up at night, until the midterm. The day of the big exam, my dad handed out the papers as usual. He walked down Kevin's row and placed Test A on his desk. Kevin looked confident. He got to work immediately. About 10 minutes later, my dad casually strolled back over to Kevin's desk. He leaned down and whispered, "Oops, my mistake. You were supposed to get Test B." He snatched the paper away and slapped down the other version. My dad said the color drained from Kevin's face faster than a pulled plug. The kid froze. He stared at the new paper, sweating. For the rest of the period, he didn't write a single answer. He failed miserably. That's when my dad cracked the mystery. It turned out my dad always alternated the rows, starting with Test A, then Test B. Kevin had a buddy in the first period physics class who sat in that exact same chair. Every time the buddy got Test A, he would write the answers on his scratch paper, but he wouldn't turn it in. At the bell, he'd toss the scratch paper into the recycling bin by the door. Kevin would swing by before his class, pretend to throw away a wrapper, fish out the note, and then quickly program the answers into his calculator's memory during study hall. It was a flawless system, until the day he got the wrong test. And now on to the next story. There is always one rumor in high school that everyone dismisses as gossip, only to find out years later that it was terrifyingly true. For us, it was about Mr. Davies. He was the young, cool art teacher. You know the type. Charismatic, funny, the one teacher who actually got us. His favorite student was a quiet girl named Jenna. She was insanely talented and Mr. Davies was her champion. He got her into summer programs, featured her art in the hallways, and acted like the perfect mentor. Then halfway through junior year, Jenna just vanished. Her parents pulled her out of school overnight. They moved to a different county without a word. 2 days later, the principal announced that Mr. Davies was taking an indefinite leave of absence for family reasons. He never came back. Naturally, the rumor mill went nuclear. The whispers said Mr. Davies had been inappropriate with her. But the reaction from the student body was disgusting. The art club kids were vicious in his defense. They said Jenna was unstable. They said her crazy parents were ruining the career of the only teacher who believed in her. It got so toxic that if you tried to defend Jenna, you were accused of just being jealous of her talent. Eventually, the rumors died. We all just accepted that Mr. Davies was a great guy who got a raw deal. Fast forward 4 years. I'm in college scrolling through the news when I see a long-form investigative article in the state paper. The headline stopped my heart. It was Jenna. She was 21 now, and she was finally speaking out. It wasn't a rumor. It was a nightmare. Mr. Davies had been grooming her since her freshman year. Her parents had found a box hidden in her room filled with love letters and inappropriate gifts he'd given her. They had gone to the school immediately. The district, terrified of a lawsuit and a scandal, forced Mr. Davies to resign quietly. They paid Jenna's parents a massive settlement, which included tuition for a private school to get her away from him. The whole thing was sealed with a non-disclosure agreement. Jenna wasn't allowed to say a word, but she broke the NDA. She risked the lawsuit and the money because she found out Mr. Davies was teaching again in another state under a slightly different name. She blew up her own life to stop him from doing it to someone else. I think back to how hard we defended him and how we called her crazy. I've never felt guilt like that in my life. And now on to the next story. My wife comes from money, and I don't mean nice car money. I mean our family name is literally carved into the stone of a museum money. I realized just how different our worlds were the first time I met the whole clan. It was her father's 60th birthday, held at their massive coastal estate. To put it bluntly, it was awful. It wasn't a party, it was a shark tank. Everyone was networking. Her cousins were aggressively pitching crypto startups to bored relatives. Her uncles were screaming about stock portfolios over champagne. Everyone was desperately clawing for 5 minutes of FaceTime with the patriarch, Mr. H. And then there was me, a carpenter. I build custom cabinets for a living. Standing there in a borrowed suit, holding a tiny plate of hors d'oeuvres, I felt like a zoo animal. I couldn't take the fake laughter anymore. I wandered off towards the water and found this gorgeous, vintage wooden boathouse. But immediately, the carpenter in me twitched. The main door was hanging off one broken hinge, warping the beautiful frame. It was physically bugging me to look at it. I looked around. Coast was clear. I found the caretaker's shed, grabbed a drill, some wood shims, and miraculously found a set of heavy-duty stainless steel hinges. I took off my suit jacket, rolled up my sleeves, and spent the next hour just working, rehanging the door, making sure the reveal was perfect, ensuring it was level and flush. It was quiet. The ocean breeze was cool. For the first time that day, I felt useful. "Is it level?" The voice boomed behind me. I froze. My heart dropped into my stomach. Mr. H was standing right there staring at me. I thought I was dead. I thought I was about to get thrown out by security for tampering with the property. He didn't look angry, though. He just watched me tighten the final screw. I swallowed hard. "It is now, sir." He stepped forward, swung the door open and closed. It glided perfectly. Silent, solid. He just nodded once, turned around, and walked back to the party without saying another word. A week later, my phone rang. It was Mr. H. He offered me a massive, no-interest loan to expand my carpentry business into a factory operation. It was life-changing money. I got nervous. My palms started sweating. "Sir," I said, I can't accept that. I like my small shop." There was silence on the line. I quickly added, "But I did notice the shelves in your library are sagging under the weight of those books. I'd be honored to come by and reinforce them for you. As a gift." The silence stretched for a long, agonizing second. Then the billionaire laughed. A genuine, loud laugh. "Son," he said, "you're the first person in 30 years who didn't just take the check." And now on to the next story. My betrayal didn't get discovered through a text message, or lipstick on a collar, or a receipt for a jewelry store. The thing that destroyed my marriage was the continue watching Row on Netflix. My wife Sarah and I had been together for 8 years. We had one sacred ritual: true crime documentaries. We always watched them together. It was the law. If one of us was traveling, the show waited. No exceptions. A few months ago, Sarah went on a girls' weekend to a spa retreat. "No cell service," she told me, packing her bag. "I'm just going to unplug. Total digital detox." I was totally fine with it. She worked hard. She deserved a break. That Saturday night, I was home alone, bored out of my mind. I grabbed a beer and logged on to Netflix. I clicked our shared profile, and there it was, the Night Stalker files. My heart actually skipped a beat. Under the thumbnail, it said, Episode 3. That was impossible. We had just started Episode 1 together 2 days before she left. We never watched that show without each other. I clicked play, my hands shaking slightly. The little red progress bar was 45 minutes into the episode. It hadn't been accidentally clicked. It had been watched. I tried to rationalize it. Okay, maybe she was bored and watched it before she left. Then I looked closer. The recently watched history time-stamped Episode 2 and Episode 3. Both were viewed on Friday night. She had left for her no-cell service spa retreat on Friday morning. I felt sick. It was such a small, stupid thing. But it was the one rule we had. I started digging, not in her phone, but in her car's GPS cloud history. The spa retreat was 3 hours north in the mountains. Her last saved destination from Friday afternoon wasn't a spa. It was an apartment complex 20 minutes across town. Specifically, the complex where her work friend, the guy she told me not to worry about, had just moved in. When she got back on Sunday, she was glowing. She looked refreshed. She talked all about the mud baths, the hiking, and the fresh air. I let her finish. I let her lie to my face for 20 minutes. Then I casually picked up the remote. "How was the retreat, really?" I asked, turning on the TV. "Amazing," she smiled, pouring herself some water. "Weird," I said, clicking on our profile. "I thought you had no service in the mountains." I navigated to the show. "So did you manage to stream The Night Stalker via satellite from the middle of the woods?" The color drained from her face faster than I have ever seen in my life. She froze, the glass of water halfway to her mouth. She wasn't just betraying me. She was betraying me with our show. The divorce was finalized 6 months later. I got the house. I got the dog. And most importantly, I kept the Netflix account. She can keep the work friend. And now on to the next story. I used to do high-level data analysis for some of the biggest companies in the world. And let me tell you something terrifying. Most of these massive corporations have absolutely no clue where their money's going. I'm talking about millions of dollars in revenue just disappearing in the pipeline. Poof. Gone. And the scariest part? No one cared. There were multiple times I had to walk into a boardroom and tell clients, "Hey, we have huge gaps in your costs. The math doesn't add up. We're missing 7 figures here." I expected panic. I expected an investigation. Instead, I usually got a shrug and a paraphrased reply. "Just sprinkle the missing costs over the existing ones. We just want the final total to look correct." That was it. All they cared about was if the number at the end of the year was higher than the number at the start. Everything in between was just noise to them. At first, I objected. I told my bosses, "We can't do this. This is incorrect data. It's basically lying." But my bosses just sighed. Do what the client wants. Just execute. Eventually, I got disillusioned. I stopped fighting. When a client came to me with a request that made zero mathematical or logical sense, I didn't argue. I just said, "You got it." I let them pay 6 figures for analysis that I knew was absolute nonsense. I essentially handed them a grenade with the pin pulled, knowing it wouldn't explode until I was long gone. But and this is crucial, I was paranoid. I kept documentation of everything, every ridiculous request, every objection I raised, and every email where they told me to just ignore the errors. It paid off. A few months ago, one of those major clients came back. They were furious. Their in-house analysts had finally done a deep dive and realized their projections were completely wrong. They were losing money hand over fist. They tried to pin it on me. They threatened to sue my firm for negligence. I didn't panic. I just calmly opened my "in case of fire" folder. I forwarded a single email thread from 8 months prior. It showed me highlighting the exact error they were now screaming about, and their VP replying, quote, "Stop wasting time on this and just make the graph look steady." I never heard back from them, but I did check their stock price this morning. It's down 40%, and honestly, I slept like a baby. And now on to the next story. They say a child who is not embraced by the village will burn it down just to feel its warmth. It's a chilling quote, but I never really understood what it looked like in real life, until I met a man who decided to burn us all down with radio waves. I used to be heavily into amateur radio. It started back when I was in the Army Cadets. We had this one adult instructor. Let's call him Dave. Dave was odd. He was overly friendly, intense, and absolutely obsessed with the technical side of radios. He'd always hand out cheap tech to us kids, trying to get us hooked. But the thing about Dave was that he was a stickler for the rules. I mean, strictly by the book. Years later, after I left the cadets and went off to university, I bumped into Dave again. We were both in the same local Facebook group for radio hobbyists. And just like before, he was the self-appointed policeman of the airwaves. He was constantly posting, reminding everyone that we had to be socially conscious. He had this specific analogy he loved using about Mrs. Miggins. He'd say, "Mrs. Miggins on her $10 handset doesn't know about squelch or transmission power. If you blast high power on public channels, you drown her out. She can hear you, but she can't reach her kid down the street, and she can't ask you to stop." Technically, he was right. It's actually a criminal offense to transmit at high power on those specific unlicensed channels. But nobody really enforces it. It's the Wild West out there. One day, a new guy joined the group and mentioned he was boosting his signal. Dave jumped on him immediately. He wrote a massive essay in the comments, lecturing the guy about half-watt limits and the law. The group admins were tired of it. They called it preaching. They deleted his comments, and when Dave kept pushing, they banned him. Just like that. Dave didn't take it well. He messaged the admins, practically begging to be let back in, promising he was just trying to help. They ignored him. That was the moment the village shut the gate on him, so he decided to light the match. Dave didn't yell. He didn't threaten anyone online. Instead, he went into his backyard. He set up a massive professional-grade antenna tower. It loomed over his garden fences like a skeleton. Then he hooked it up to a 30-watt transmission system. To put that in perspective, the legal limit for those channels is half a watt. 30 watts is nuclear by comparison. Now, whenever the radio club tries to organize an event, or chat, or coordinate on their usual channels, Dave flips the switch. He doesn't say a word. He just blasts a carrier signal, a wall of electronic noise, for hours at a time. It's so powerful it bleeds over everything. No one can talk. No one can listen. It renders the entire hobby useless for everyone in a 5-mile radius. He sits there in his house alone, watching his equipment hum, drowning out the very community he wanted to be part of. He wanted to teach us the importance of following the rules, and in the silence of our dead radios, I guess we finally got the message.